Hello my friends, welcome to another episode of Diablo 3. My name is Wilfred. So today's episode I'd like to share with you a build that I use for speed farming, normal rift as well as doing some bounty and so on, because Rathma said at endgame is not really that great for speed farming, to be honest. So it is really fun. I really enjoyed this particular build, and also I'm Guardian now, so completed the whole entire journey 23. Pretty fun. There's a pet there, and I'll talk a little bit about the season journey probably in another video, but today is all about the this Rathma speed farming build. Now, if you play Rathma set, you probably know that Army of the Dead is a limiting factor in terms of how fast you can kill stuff within the dungeon and so on. So it doesn't matter whether you do a GR 70 or GR 90, 95. It still takes roughly the same amount of time because of the fact that there's a cooldown on Army of the Dead. So in this speed farming build, the idea is to shorten that in as much as possible, increase the mobility of the build. Now, before I talk about the build itself, let's just demonstrate a little bit on how it works. Now, this build is not for endgame. This build is mainly for probably like Torment 70, Greater Rift 75, Torment 16, each kind of like timing. You can push it up to maybe 8. GR 18 is still quite effective, but beyond which it's going to be a little bit slow as well. So it depends on how fast you can kill with the Army of the Dead, how many augmentation you've got, and so on and so forth. But in general, there's a limit to what you can do. But it's super fun for this build. You will see things like the Army of Dead. I'm using a rune that is basically follow me. So look at this one. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So the Army of Dead actually follow the person itself. I'm using aura to cast the frailty. I'm also basically just using the revive and so on and so forth for the Rathma. So I'll get into that a bit. And the interesting thing is that I've got a ring. This is the one, the Breach Wrath, which kind of like pull enemy onto me. So I'm going to demonstrate just a little bit of how it works. I'm using T16 because basically this build is really for speed farming T16. And the map that I'm going to demonstrate is perhaps Field of Mystery, because there's a lot of mobs there. First speed is a little bit slower because I need to get the number of like a revive to 10. So I'm just going to find some mobs for you guys so I can demonstrate. Then it's just a matter of getting Then after that, yeah. It just like continuously, well, you can spam the Army of Dead rather far. Well, it depends on how many mobs you kill as well. Yeah. Now, the more mobs that you kind of kill, the better this one is, because I'm using one of the weapons to help me with that. But you can see that Army of Dead is actually the limiting factor on how fast you can pull the whole thing up. The other thing that's quite interesting is that this is a nice one. This is the blue kind of like a goblin. Yeah, so you can have like a lot of loot here. So yeah, I mean, you guys get the idea. It's pretty fun. As you get all these things going on. It's just like pull everybody onto you. But I mean, from time to time you do have some kind of like a downtime as well. All you need to do just circle a little bit, put some mobs here and there, and do it. Alright, cool. Now, so now you get idea. Let me just go back and loot something first. It's always fun to see a lot of loot, isn't it? Okay, let me just grab all these things first, or majority of them. Now, how the build work is this. Let me just finish this guy up. Let me go back to town. So this build works something like this. I'm using a frailty, aura of frailty, so that it kind of like creating an aura. I don't need to cast anything. Army of the Dead, I use Death Storm. Death Storm will follow you along. Just what you've seen there. It's a physical kind of like spell skill, which is kind of synergized with the physical variants I use for endgame, which is the one that suck everything in the same in the middle. No change to command. Skeleton is still a frenzy. No change to bone armor, which is still a dislocation. No change to blood rush, still a potency as per the endgame build. And as for revive, I'm using personal army as well. No change to that. The more mobs that you have revived, the more damage reduction you have. The passive wise, I choose a little bit differently, which is first of all fuel by death. Number of corpse that consume you increase your movement by 3 or 5 seconds, which is kind of like kind of nice if you keep like popping like your revive that will consume a corpse. So you don't need to revive all the time, but if you revive, then you gain some speed along the way, so it help you to push a little bit faster. Remember that normally I would not pop revive in end game that often, but for the speed farming build in between, just like spam some revive, get your speed a little bit faster. That kind of helps. Blood is power is interesting. After you lose 100% of your maximum life, which is for me is about 700,000, then all the ability cooldown is reduced by 20%. That of course help with the army of the dead. So you got to because this is more of the melee kind of like range build. You tend to take quite a fair bit of damage, but it's good to take damage. Don't take too much until the character dies. But in any case, you have final service as well that help you to mitigate any lethal damage as well. Last but not the least, Dark Reaping. Again, essence and life per hit kill, which is important because this build, like the endgame build, is like there's no generator. You can't generate any resource. You have to rely on killing stuff to generate resource as well. So that is the stuff that I use. From a gear wise, I'm still using the whole Rathma set, missing one item, or the feed item, because I mix it with the Captain Crimson as well. That henceforth I need the royal the Ring of the Royal Grandeur to enable me equipping 2 set. No change to the end game as well. This is the beauty of this build. Everything more or less the same. Then the bracer, I'm still using the bonds of the Selena. Don't know how to pronounce that, but that is the one that is same as the end game build. The only difference is that I'm using a crispy sentence as well. Crispy sentence is still the same, no change to that. The only thing I change is the necklace, which is I'm using a skirt necklace instead of the haunted vision, because the end game build I use simulacrum. And as for the ring wise, I use the conversion of elements for the endgame build, but now I use a bridge wrath, which is kind of nice. Legendary gem wise, I replaces the one that does the range. So if you look at the other one that I've got here, the Zell Stones of Vengeance is to do with range, but this build is a melee build, so there's no point using this one. So I'm using the Bane of the Powerful instead, which give me 20% increase after killing an elite pet, which is very, very often. The other 2 gem that I use, Bane of the Trap, like every other build use that. And the next one is the Molten Wild Beast of GZ. If you think that you are strong enough, you don't need that, you can use the Boon of the Hoarder as well. That one is Boon. Yeah, you can use this one as well. If you're farming for gold and so on, that is pretty cool. Give you further speed boost as well, which is what this gem is really good at. If you can do without this so-called kind of like the GZ, but I like it because it gives me a shield kind of like works pretty well with the skirt necklace as well. But it really depends on what your target is, or how comfortable you are in taking all this damage. From a cube wise, the very important thing is this Reaver there, which is to reduce the remaining cooldown of one of your skills by 1 second when you slay an enemy. So the only couple of things that is on cooldown, of course, you have the bone armor, you have the blood rush, you have the armory of the dead. So to make this build work, likely you don't kind of like pop blood rush too often, unless it's necessary to get from A to B. From the end game build, I like to do that because it increase my armor for 2 seconds after casting, so I get like pretty well protected every 5 seconds. Even if I'm not moving, I out of the range, I'll still pop the Blood Rush to gain the buff, to increase armor. And also the Bone Armor, up to you. You can do it every 10 seconds or so. But, to make this work even better, I believe you better just use the Army of the Dead. Just landing on the Army of the Dead. Fate Vow is the same as end game. No change to that. It's still do additional kind of like 250% damage and gain the effect of the unconventional warfare rune. So all in all, just a different between the end game build and this speed farming build is that the weapon wise, I'm using this guy here, and then I use a skirt as well as the Breach Wrath, and I change one of the legendary gems, and of course the skill wise I do a little bit of tweaking to it, but it is definitely faster, especially when you do like when you want to empower your Rift and do a bit of like leveling up the legendary gem for augmentation. Then this build is basically very, very nice because it's just like pretty nicely carried through the entire dungeon compared to the end game build. Alright, so I hope you find this one fun and useful, and as always, you can drop a note below if you want to ask me any question. I'll see you next time. Good luck with your Diablo 3 journey. Bye.